Aotearoa, New Zealand. It is a place of almost impossible beauty, a land of soaring mountains that touch the clouds, of deep, quiet fjords carved by ancient ice, and of coastlines that stretch on forever, kissed by the wild Tasman Sea and the vast Pacific Ocean. It's a young country, geologically speaking, a place still being shaped, still being formed, and honestly, that is the heart of the matter. This stunning beauty comes with a terrible price. New Zealand sits squarely on the Ring of Fire, a volatile belt of volcanoes and tectonic plate boundaries that circles the Pacific. Here, deep beneath our feet, the Earth is restless. The Pacific Plate and the Australian Plate are in a constant slow-motion collision. They grind against each other, they push, they shove, and sometimes they break. When that pressure builds and is finally released, the ground beneath our homes, our schools, and our lives begins to shake, violently. It is a feeling that every New Zealander knows, a deep primal rumble that you feel in your bones before you even hear it. It is the sound of the earth reminding us of its immense power. For generations, Kiwis have lived with this reality. We call our country the Shaky Isles with a kind of nervous affection. Earthquakes are a part of our story, woven into the fabric of our national identity. It was a beautiful summer morning in Hawke's Bay, Tuesday the 3rd of February, 1931. The sun was bright in a clear blue sky. In the bustling port city of Napier, people were going about their daily lives. Shopkeepers were opening their doors, children were in their classrooms at Napier Boys High School, and nurses were tending to patients at the Napier Hospital. It was a day like any other, full of the simple, quiet rhythms of life. And then, at 10:47 a.m., the world ended. Without warning, the ground began to heave in a violent rolling motion. A deafening roar filled the air as the earth shook with a force that felt like the end of days. The earthquake lasted for less than 3 minutes, but, wow, its impact was absolute. Almost every building in the central business districts of Napier and nearby Hastings was flattened. Facades of brick and plaster crashed onto the streets below. The nurse's home at Napier Hospital, a grand brick structure, collapsed in on itself, trapping the staff inside. At the Roach's department store in Hastings, the building pancaked, a scene of utter devastation. Fires broke out almost immediately, fed by broken gas lines and the dry timber of the shattered buildings. A thick black smoke choked the sky, turning a perfect summer's day into a vision of hell. The shaking was so immense that the land itself was permanently altered, with parts of the Ahuriri Lagoon rising up out of the sea, creating new coastline in an instant. In the chaos and the dust, stories of incredible bravery and heartbreaking loss began to emerge. Survivors clawed through the rubble with their bare hands, desperate to find loved ones. Sailors from the HMS Veronica, a Royal Navy ship docked in the port, were among the first to respond. They formed rescue parties, set up a makeshift hospital on the waterfront, and worked tirelessly to pull people from the wreckage. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ordinary people became heroes. They formed bucket brigades to fight the raging fires. They shared what little food and water they had, and they comforted the injured and the bereaved. The 1931 Hawke's Bay earthquake, which claimed 256 lives, was our nation's deadliest natural disaster. It was a moment of profound national grief, but out of those ashes, something remarkable was born. The city of Napier was rebuilt, not as it was, but in the fashionable Art Deco style of the era. It was a defiant act of hope, a beautiful scar that stands today as a monument to both the tragedy and the unyielding spirit of its people. For a long time, Christchurch was known as the Garden City, a gentle, beautiful place on the Canterbury Plains. It was famous for its English character, its stone buildings, its iconic cathedral, and the Avon River that winds peacefully through its heart. It felt safe. It felt permanent. On September 4th, 2010, at 4:35 in the morning, that feeling was shattered. A powerful magnitude 7.1 earthquake struck, waking the city's residents to a terrifying darkness filled with the sound of smashing glass and groaning earth. While it caused widespread damage to buildings and infrastructure, miraculously, no one was killed. It was a brutal wake-up call, a warning shot. For the next 5 months, the city lived on a knife's edge, shaken by a relentless series of aftershocks that frayed nerves and cracked walls. On February 22, 2011, at 12:51 p.m., a time when the city was at its busiest, a second, more violent earthquake struck. It was shallower and more vicious than the one in September. It was not a rolling quake, it was a brutal, vertical punch from below. The ground liquefied, turning solid earth into a gray, silty sludge that erupted from the ground, swallowing cars and flooding streets. Buildings that had been weakened in the first quake now collapsed completely. It was a disaster on a scale that New Zealand had not seen in 80 years. This time, the city's heart was broken. The spire of the beautiful Christchurch Cathedral, the very symbol of the city, toppled and fell. The 6-story Canterbury television building, home to a television station and an English language school, pancaked and caught fire, becoming a tomb for 115 people. The Pine Gould Corporation building also collapsed, trapping dozens inside. Across the city, facades of historic buildings crumbled into the streets, crushing buses and cars. The familiar landscape of the city was gone, replaced by scenes of devastation and chaos. The sirens never stopped. The February earthquake claimed 185 lives from 20 different countries. It injured thousands more and left a deep psychological wound on the soul of the city. It was Christchurch's longest and darkest day. The city center was cordoned off, becoming a red zone patrolled by the army. Thousands of homes were deemed irreparable, entire suburbs condemned. The lives of hundreds of thousands of people were changed forever. They had lost their homes, their workplaces, their loved ones, and their sense of security. In the days that followed, the people of Christchurch faced a future that was terrifyingly uncertain. The shaking had stopped, but the long, hard road of recovery was only just beginning. In the heart of the chaos on that February afternoon, the raw, terrifying reality of the earthquake was felt in 1,000 different ways. It was the story of Ann Bodkin, a manager at the Pine Gould Corporation building. When the quake hit, the building began to sway violently. She was thrown to the floor as the ceiling collapsed, plunging her into darkness. She lay there, pinned by her desk, listening to the screams of her colleagues and the groaning of the broken building around her. For 26 agonizing hours she was trapped, her legs crushed, her hope fading. Rescuers worked tirelessly, digging through the unstable wreckage until they finally reached her, pulling her from a tomb of concrete and steel into the light. Her survival was a miracle, a small beacon of hope in a day of overwhelming loss. It was the story of Brian Coker, who was also in the Pine Gould building. He was on the ground floor when the quake struck. He remembers the sound, a deafening explosion, as the floors above him gave way. He was trapped in a tiny pocket, his legs crushed beyond repair. He lay in the dark, calling out, listening for any sign of life. He could hear the desperate sounds of other survivors and the heroic efforts of the rescuers working just meters away. He was eventually pulled free, but his life was forever changed. He would lose both of his legs, yet his story became one of incredible resilience. He went on to compete in hand cycling events, including the New York Marathon, showing the world that even in the face of devastating loss, the human spirit can find a way to soar. It was the story of a father who was walking through Cashel Mall when the quake hit. He watched in horror as the stone facade of a building peeled away and crashed onto the street, crushing a city bus right in front of him. He saw the dust, he heard the screams, and he ran. He ran through the liquefaction bubbling up from the pavement, his only thought to get to his children's school. It was a primal instinct, a desperate need to know they were safe. That journey, through a city that had become a war zone, was repeated by thousands of parents that day. It was a race against fear, driven by the fierce, protective power of love. And it was the story of countless quiet moments of terror and grace. The office workers who huddled under their desks, holding on to each other as their world fell apart. The strangers on the street who helped each other up, who comforted those who were crying, who checked on the elderly in their neighborhoods. It was the people who opened their homes to those who had lost everything, offering a cup of tea, a warm bed, a safe place to be. These were not just stories of survival, they were stories of humanity. In the city's most broken moment, when the ground itself had betrayed them, the people of Christchurch found their strength not in buildings or in infrastructure, but in each other. Just as Christchurch was finding its new rhythm, just as the nation began to feel the ground was firm beneath its feet again, the earth reminded us of its power once more. 2 minutes after midnight on November 14, 2016, a complex and powerful earthquake struck the Upper South Island. Centered near the small coastal town of Kaikoura, a place famous for its whale watching and stunning mountain-to-sea landscapes, it wasn't one single rupture, but a cascade of faults breaking one after another, like a zipper being violently undone. The shaking went on for nearly 2 minutes. The magnitude 7.8 quake was one of the most complex ever recorded by scientists anywhere in the world. The violence of the quake was breathtaking. It lifted the seabed by up to 8 meters in some places, creating a strange and beautiful new coastline of exposed reef and seaweed. It triggered tens of thousands of landslides, severing the main road and rail links that connected Kaikoura to the rest of the country. Mountains literally fell onto the highway. State Highway 1, the main artery running the length of the country, was buried under millions of tons of rock and earth. The town of Kaikoura, along with several smaller farming communities, was completely cut off from the outside world. There was no way in and no way out. For the residents and the nearly 1,000 tourists stranded in Kaikoura, the isolation was terrifying. The aftershocks were constant and strong, sending people running for higher ground in the dark, fearing a tsunami. In the rural areas, farming families found themselves utterly alone. People like the Black family, on their remote coastal farm, watched as the ground tore apart, creating huge fissures across their land. They were trapped, their road gone, their home damaged with no idea when help might arrive. Their story was repeated up and down the coast, a tale of hardy, resilient people forced to rely on their own wits and the support of their immediate neighbors. The response was swift and massive. With the roads impassable, the rescue and relief effort had to come from the sea and the air. The New Zealand Defence Force launched a major operation. Warships from New Zealand, Australia, the United States and Canada, which were in the country for a naval celebration, were diverted to Kaikoura. They ferried supplies and evacuated hundreds of stranded tourists and locals. Helicopters flew countless missions, bringing in food, water and medicine, and airlifting people from isolated farms. It was a powerful display of international cooperation and military logistics, all focused on one small, cut-off community. The world came to help, and for the people of Kaikoura, watching those ships arrive on the horizon was a profound symbol of hope. In the days following the February 2011 Christchurch earthquake, a city was on its knees. But as the dust began to settle, something extraordinary and hopeful emerged from the chaos. It started with a simple Facebook page created by a University of Canterbury student named Sam Johnson. He and a few friends wanted to help. They wanted to do something, anything, to ease the burden on their shattered city. The idea was simple: gather students and go out into the suburbs to help people shovel the thick, heavy liquefaction silt that had inundated their homes and gardens. They called themselves the Student Volunteer Army. They had no idea what they were about to unleash. The response was phenomenal. Within days, thousands of students had joined the cause. They put on their gumboots, grabbed their shovels, and fanned out across the city's eastern suburbs, the areas worst hit by liquefaction. They went door to door asking, "Do you need a hand?" They shoveled tons of silt, delivered chemical toilets, carried water, and offered a friendly face and a listening ear to residents who were shocked, exhausted, and overwhelmed. They were a force of youthful energy and compassion. They brought order to the chaos and hope to the despairing. They showed the older generation that young people cared deeply. The Student Army became a symbol of the wider community response that defined the aftermath of the Christchurch earthquakes. It wasn't just the students, it was everyone. People from all walks of life came together in a massive, uncoordinated, and beautiful display of solidarity. Barbecues were set up on street corners to feed neighbors and rescue workers. Tradespeople offered their skills for free to make homes safe. People with generators shared their power with those who had none. The Sikh community set up kitchens and served thousands of free hot meals every single day. This was the spirit of Manaakitanga, a Maori concept of hospitality, kindness, and looking after one another in action. This spirit of collective action was not unique to Christchurch. We saw it again in Kaikoura in 2016. There, the local marae, Takahanga Marae, became the heart of the community response. They opened their doors, providing shelter, food, and comfort to hundreds of stranded tourists and locals alike, regardless of who they were or where they came from. Farmers used their tractors to clear slips and check on isolated neighbors. The local pub owner gave away food and drink. This is the New Zealand way. When disaster strikes, the official response is crucial, but the true first responders are always the people. It is the instinct to help, the desire to connect, and the understanding that we are all in this together. The scars of these earthquakes run deep. They are visible in the empty lots that still dot Christchurch's central city, in the stunning new coastline of Kaikoura, and in the beautiful Art Deco buildings of Napier that rose from the rubble of 1931. But the deepest scars are the ones we cannot see. They are the memories of loss, the lingering anxiety when a truck rumbles past, and the empty chair at the dinner table. These disasters have taken a profound toll on our nation's psyche. We have lost people we loved, we have lost places that held our memories, we have lost our innocence about the ground on which we build our lives. We are a nation that has been deeply wounded, but we are not a nation that has been broken. Out of the pain and the loss, a new strength has been forged. We have learned hard lessons from each of these disasters. After Napier, we developed some of the world's most advanced earthquake-resistant building codes. After Christchurch, we learned about the devastating power of liquefaction and the importance of urban planning that respects the land. We have become world leaders in earthquake engineering and disaster response. Our scientists and engineers are sought after globally for their expertise. We are more prepared now than we have ever been. We have better emergency plans, stronger buildings, and a deeper understanding of the risks we face. More important than the structural and scientific lessons, however, are the human ones. We have learned about the incredible resilience of the human spirit. We have seen firsthand that communities are stronger than concrete and steel. We have been reminded of the profound importance of kindness, of compassion, and of simply being a good neighbor. The student army in Christchurch and the community spirit in Kaikoura were not anomalies. They were a reflection of who we are at our core. We are a small, tight-knit country, and when one part of us hurts, we all feel it. We have learned that our greatest asset in a disaster is not our infrastructure, but our people. Today, on August 12, 2025, when we look at our country, we see the evidence of this resilience everywhere. We see a rebuilt Christchurch, with its innovative new public spaces, like the Margaret Mahi Playground and the Turanga Library, designed for people. We see a reconnected Kaikoura, its vital road and rail links painstakingly rebuilt in a stunning feat of engineering. We see a vibrant Napier, a city that turned its greatest tragedy into its defining feature. These places are not just rebuilt, they are reimagined. They are infused with the lessons of the past and a powerful hope for the future. Aotearoa, New Zealand will always be the shaky isles. The ground will move again, but these experiences have changed us. They have made us stronger, more connected, and more determined than ever to face whatever comes next, together.